Hello, everyone, and welcome back to LA Rams Central. This is yet another episode. I believe we're at episode number 8. We're almost at the magic number 10. So, really excited, getting some great feedback, getting some good back and forth. A lot's gone on since last week. The Janoris Jenkins saga, the situation with Trumaine Johnson, which there's been a lot in the news. It's really irritated me on that. Case Keenum, that's broken relatively recently that he is, the Rams feel real confident that he's a starting quarterback. I'm going to tell you why that's all shenanigans here in a minute. I told you we were going to talk about the Saints. Again, I may be going against the grain here with what I think the Saints are going to do, but I like what I have the Saints doing, and I have two different options in the first round for you Saint fans to look at. And then lastly, for a little bit of fandom, I'm going to talk about kind of what went down today in Ram current news at the end, and that's going to be when the Case Keenum talk kind of goes around. So, a lot to cover. Start with the Rams, go to the Saints, end with the Rams. This show, again, should be relatively short. I'm thinking 30 minutes this week, folks, so sit back and kind of enjoy, and I hope you guys really take note to what I say. And, again, in the end, what's fun about all this is we'll wait and see. Okay, so that being said, let me jump right in. So there's a couple things here that I want to mention that I think are worth mentioning. First of all, I had a little bit of a conversation back and forth with a gentleman on my YouTube channel from the last episode, and anybody that tunes in, you can see the conversation. And he's really big on the Rams secondary, and you guys know I'm not. I haven't been a fan of the Rams secondary at all. When you give up a 30-yard gain, a 22-yard gain on 3rd and 15 to the Baltimore Ravens, it sets up the game-tying field goal. And then Case Keenum, the quarterback we're going to talk about later, decides to fumble the ball away or not even take himself out of the game and essentially cost the Rams that game. It put the Rams in a bad position and then ended up inevitably costing them the game. But I go back to Janoris Jenkins. 5'10", they say. I think he's more like 5'9". Big play capability. Had 3 interceptions last year, I believe. Might have been 4. 48 tackles. Not a big play guy. In fact, got beat by bad receivers frequently throughout the course of the season when it mattered the most. Not exactly a shutdown corner. Not exactly a top 5 corner. A top 10 corner. Not even, in my opinion, a top 15 corner. You want to put him in the top 20, fine. But I'm not putting him in the top 5, 10, or 15. So, he wants big-time money. And I'm listening to Doug and Wolf because the Rams made a franchise tag on Trumaine Johnson, who's a 6'2" corner who had 7 interceptions, 58 tackles. But according to Doug and Wolf here in Arizona, that was a bad decision because you can't franchise tag Trumaine Johnson and let Janoris Jenkins go. Janoris Jenkins, a guy who has not produced since he's been a Ram, had the good rookie year, and I say good, okay year 2, and sucked last year, right? That's the guy we're supposed to franchise tag and let a guy like Trumaine Johnson, who's slowly been getting better and better and better, who's a big corner, who fits the mold more of what defenses nowadays need to do, more than a 5'9" problem child, to say the very least. I'm not okay with it. I'm not okay with it. And I didn't think it was a good move to go after him. And thank God he was watching over our Rams, because Les Snead made his first very dumb decision so far as the LA Rams GM. He offered that man $48 million. $48 million! That $50 million cap, you're going to spend half of it on this guy. We franchise tagged Trumaine Johnson for $12.5. Thank you, Lord. You're watching over the Rams because the ownership, which is great, has management that's stupid. I'm sorry, Les. You are an idiot if you give that man $48 million. Thank God he didn't accept it. Right? So, Janoris Jenkins, goodbye. Have a nice career. Enjoy being a mediocre DB somewhere else. Thankfully, we get Trumaine Johnson. I'm high on Trumaine. EJ Gaines, I'm going to wait and see. I don't know what to make of him. I like his talent. I don't like his production. We'll see what happens. You have that to know. Free agency. Still hearing Peyton Manning. First of all, thank you, Peyton. Thank you. I mean this on behalf of many people who feel like I do, who for years have been saying the kind of person you are, and people telling us that we were wrong. Thank you for showing the nation just what kind of a scumbag you really are. Yeah, he's a scumbag, and I don't use that term loosely. He still hasn't made his decision. He's now put the Denver Broncos in a conundrum. He's now made Brock Osweiler's life a heck of a lot more difficult. Am I going to be free agent? Am I not? What do I need to do? What about his family? How they need a plan? The least you could do if you had an ounce of class in your body, which you don't, okay? You could have told the organization what you were doing and allowed them to prepare Brock Osweiler accordingly. Instead, you leave that young man in a lynch to figure out what's going to happen. Free agent, not. Broncos, do they sign him? Do they not? What are they going to do? How do they work it? What's going to happen? No. You sit on your high horse like you're God's gift to football. Dude, you're just a dude. You're just a dude. And you're not even a good dude, let alone a good football player anymore. Call it quits. Go out on top. Because everyone else is going to remember you this way. And I don't want you to come to LA so everybody remembers you the way you really are, which is an average quarterback who had tremendous talent around him most of his career, who performed big time in regular season games, greatest regular season quarterback that ever lived. Can't argue the statistics. He's a first ballot Hall of Famer. But I'm telling you right now, I would take Dieter Brock over Peyton Manning in the playoffs. Dieter Brock had a better playoff record. He's 500. So I don't want to hear it. The only loss he ever had was to the 85 Bears. And I promise you Peyton Manning's career would have been over at the end of the first quarter if he went against the 85 Bears. So at least we have that going for us. I can't stand Peyton Manning. I never liked him. He was a choke artist at Tennessee, never won a big game at Tennessee. Check his bowl record. It's laughable, kind of like his postseason record. Then he goes to Indy, and I'm supposed to believe he's the greatest thing ever. His competition was Ryan Leaf. Ryan Leaf! Ryan Leaf. Really? Many of you are too young, and you're probably going, Ryan, who? Yeah, exactly. That's what I was saying when he was the number 2 pick coming out of Washington State. Dude was a joke then, and that was his biggest competition. Eli Manning came out against Phillip Rivers and Ben Roethlisberger. Much better quarterback class coming out. I mean, Peyton Manning was a can't-miss guy because there was no first-round talent coming into that draft at the quarterback position. And I would argue Peyton Manning was first-round talent. I'm not going to argue that. Do I think he was first-round overall? No. But obviously the Colts did, and they got him. And they got exactly what they drafted. They got a quarterback who could perform when it didn't matter and choke like a crazy person when the pressure was on. Much like this Super Bowl team, where the defense carried Peyton Manning across the finish line, his only other Super Bowl win, the team carried him across the finish line, or carried him to the finish line, and then he was blessed by an act of God. He went against Rex Grossman in the Super Bowl. Really? Rex Grossman? So, Rams, don't get the scumbag. If he doesn't want to retire, then let him go out the way he should. Cut, and no one wants him. Because he's a no-arm hack who's overrated when it comes to being great. Greatness to me is performing big time in the big game. Joe Montana, Joe Theismann, Steve Young, Troy Aikman, Terry Bradshaw, Bart Starr, Otto Graham, Sid Luckman, Johnny Unitas, Bob Greasy, Ken Stabler, rest in peace. Sorry, Peyton doesn't even fit that mold. He didn't even fit. I'll give you another name. Doug Williams. Doug Williams. 2 playoff wins in Washington and a Super Bowl. That's 3. 1 in Tampa Bay. 1 loss, 2 loss. He's 4-2. 4-3. Lost 3 times. Once to the Rams, twice to Dallas. 4-3. Had a winning record. Not Peyton Manning. Maybe just barely over a winning record. But look at his team around him. Marvin Harrison, Reggie Wayne, Dallas Clark, Edgerrin James, Bob Sanders, Cato June, Dwight Freeney. Go to Denver, we already know what they had. Really? Okay. Don't get him. He's garbage. He's done. He was done 5 years ago, but he's definitely done now. That's all I got to say about that. Retire. But if he doesn't, don't go after him, Rams. Don't. Don't. So there's that news. Last little bit on the Rams. There's a couple free agents I want you to look for. Number 1, Ken Irvin, Seattle Seahawks. I know he's talking about possibly signing with him anyway, even though he's a free agent. Go get him. Go get him. You'll solidify your linebacking core like that. Then, go get Mario Williams. Unless you think you're going to overpay for him and you can't get both. I get that. There's other guys out there. Pierre Paul. He might be available. Okay? If not, address it with one of your second-round picks. Okay? Because it's really deep. This draft is loaded with pass rushing talent. But get yourself Kenny Irvin from the Seahawks. He's a free agent. That's got to be our number 1 sign. That's the splash the Ram Nation is waiting for. Now, what I'm going to say isn't popular. It isn't sexy. It is what it is. Okay. So I believe there's a scenario that could unfold where the Rams don't get either 3 quarterback that's out there. So here's what you do if you're the Rams. You trade your 15th pick for a first rounder this year and maybe a second rounder next year, and you move back in the draft. Maybe 24, maybe 22. Draft Kevin Hogan from Stanford. Dude's been under center since 2012. He runs a pro quarterback system. He's used to handing the ball off to a great running back. And I hear this critique of him all the time. He's got a funky delivery and no arm strength. Funky delivery and no arm strength. Funny you say that. You know who else had a funky delivery and no arm strength? Bernie Kosar. One of the best quarterbacks in the 80s. I'll take Bernie Kosar, thank you. Especially with Todd Gurley in my backfield. And Ken Irvin manning my linebacking core. Thank you. Super Bowl, here we come. Right now. Forget year 2. Forget year 3. Give us the ring. We're winning the title. With a rookie quarterback, which has never been done. I like Kevin Hogan. Stanford grad, he's smart. He's run a pro system. He's used to having a great back behind him and knows how to move the chains. And has a funky delivery, yes. No arm strength? Shut up. Shut up! I don't want to hear that. Because if you can throw a 20-yard out, you have arm strength. And Kevin Hogan can. You know who couldn't? You know who couldn't when they took him number 1 overall? Sam Bradford. And you know we heard, oh, he's still recovering from that shoulder. Dude sucks. Dude has always sucked. After the injury, he was 3rd class in a... He was 3rd class. He was 3rd class. Out of 2. Like, if there were 2 classes, he was 3rd. And they didn't even recognize 3rd class. I mean, he was awful. But we spent a first-round overall pick on him, so trade back, get yourself more picks, and get your quarterback. Hell, get a second. Get a second-round pick this year. Get 3 in this draft because it's so loaded on defense. Get yourself Eli Apple, a pass rusher, and who knows? Maybe you find your wide receiver in the 2nd round. Bam! Done. Mic drop. Finished. Peace. I'll see you in the Super Bowl. Because that's what will happen. Maybe not with a rookie quarterback. I know that's extreme. But Kevin Hogan, like Goff, can start today. Get him. Because I don't know if Paxton Lynch will be there. Now, if given the choice between Paxton Lynch and Hogan, I got to be honest with you, I'm more impressed with Hogan than Paxton. And that's going to surprise a lot of you because I've been talking Paxton up for the last 5 weeks. And I like Paxton Lynch. And I won't be mad if they get him. But I think Kevin Hogan might be a better fit. And he's a California guy. And you can't lose either way, right? I mean, granted, he's from back east. He lives in New York. That's where he was born. But he played at Stanford. Be a good pickup. So, next we'll talk about the New Orleans Saints and why Paxton Lynch might not be there. Stay tuned. All right. So the second segment, we're going to talk a little bit about the New Orleans Saints. And I'm not going to skim this because I got some Saint fans out there. So let me just start by saying this about the New Orleans Saints. I've always liked New Orleans. One of my fondest memories of the Saints, some of you are thinking 87, and I don't remember that year, as crazy as that is. The only thing I remember the 87 season is watching the Redskins against the Bears in the playoff game because it was Peyton's final game, and I had friends who were Bears fans that just bawled when he lost that game. And I remember watching parts of the conference championship game, the very beginning after my Browns, at the time they were my other team. Actually, the Redskins were always my other team, but I really wanted the Browns because I was looking forward to that rematch. And they lost in such devastating fashion, I couldn't stomach watching any more football that day. And then I watched Super Bowl 22 and watched the Redskins obliterate the Denver Broncos and with great pleasure. Not that I hate Denver. I hate Peyton Manning, but I don't hate the Broncos. That's why I can root for the Colts now, but I couldn't when he was there. And that's why I won't root for Denver now, but can once he retires. But with the Saints, my fondest memory was 1990. I remember them getting into the postseason on the last week of the regular season by beating the Rams. Had the Rams beat New Orleans, Dallas would have been in the playoffs at 7-9. The Rams would have been out at 7-9 because they lost to Dallas, but so would have New Orleans because Dallas had beat New Orleans earlier that year. But with a victory, the Saints went 9-7, and they beat the Rams 20-17. And I was really rooting hard for them over Chicago. And I remember how excited I was when they blocked that kick, and Robert Massey picked it up and took it to the house for the touchdown, and I was going nuts. And inexplicably, Pat Swilling had jumped off sides, and they ruled it back, and then Butler kicked the field goal to put them up 13-3 instead of it being tied 10-10. And it was done. It was over for the Saints at that point. Instead of being 13-10, New Orleans, it was 10-6 or 13-6. And I remember just being crushed. That was my biggest memory of the Saints. And the Saints were always one of those teams, as a fan of the Rams, they were in my division, but I never hated them. And maybe it's because the Rams had such a stranglehold on that rivalry for so long, up until the 90s, that I could appreciate playing against them and see them get better, knowing they would never be quite as good as the Rams. That all changed in the 90s. But it's funny because even in the O's, when the Rams have been awful, you ask any Saints fan, man, the Rams have been a thorn in their side. The year they went to the Super Bowl, I think, or the year after, maybe the year before, they were a playoff team nonetheless. It might have been the year after when they went in 09. But it was either 08 or 09. But they went into St. Louis and the Rams beat them. Shocked them. And everyone was like, what? Yeah, it was a big upset. The Rams have always done that to the Saints. It's always been a thing between those two teams. So I have a great affiliation, a great love for the New Orleans Saints, especially the old unis that had the Louisiana symbol, state logo on the shoulders, and the way they had those gold and black those black uniforms, the gold stripe and the white was just the right amount of white for the touch and just really made the uniform pop. And it was so fun to watch. And now it's just a lot of blah, unfortunately. But that's the case with most NFL teams' uniforms today. Not a lot of popping going on at all. On the uniforms or on the field, for that matter. But I like the Saints. And I think New Orleans is in an interesting situation. I think they made the right decision bringing back Breeze and bringing back Peyton. And just, you look at the Saints, you're like, they're old. Man, they're old, and they're not getting younger. So what do they need? I think the Saints are in one of those positions where they can go three completely different directions, and all of them will make sense, and all of them will be good decisions. I could see this scenario. I could see them, if Ezekiel Elliott isn't taken by Dallas, I could see him falling here. And I could see the Saints picking up Ezekiel Elliott and instantly giving them a running game cred and making that offense even more potent and taking some pressure off of off of Drew Brees. And I think that'd be a great move because I think Ezekiel Elliott's going to be a big-time talent in the NFL. Dude can catch the ball out of the backfield. He can pass protect better than any back coming out of college since Marshall Faulk, and that's a compliment. But he can run. So you really get a triple threat there that's really top 5 talent that may fall to you. So if Dallas is dumb enough to let him go, I think the Saints pick him up there. And if they do, they're instantly going to be even better on offense than they already are. I also see Myles Jack from UCLA. If Dallas, again, if they pull a trigger on a quarterback, or maybe they get Ezekiel Elliott, Myles Jack could fall to them here, and we know how woeful the Saints' defense was. That'd be such a big pickup for the Saints because it would bring immediate credibility to their defense. It gives them a tackler, and it puts that defense in a position where it can get off the field on third down and let that offense... Look, the Saints aren't that far away from being a playoff team or even an NFC South division champion. They've got the offense. The question is, can they get enough stops on defense? I look at the New Orleans Saints like an arena football team. You don't need to shut anybody out because you're not going to, like arena football. What you need to do is get stops via interceptions, via fumbles, via 3-and-outs, or defensive third down stops. Missed field goals, even field goals you got to count for that football team as a stop because their offense is so capable of scoring touchdowns. I really like that fit for him. And I think he can instantly make them a threat for the division. I don't know if they'll win the division, but certainly a threat to win the division. And last year, we know how woeful that defense was. Another possibility here, the third one, is Paxton Lynch. If Goff goes to San Francisco, Wentz goes to Cleveland, you could see Paxton Lynch being there and them going, well, look, we got Drew Brees for another 2 years. If we're lucky 3, let's get Paxton Lynch and groom him and turn this kid into the next Drew Brees so we don't miss a beat like the 49ers with Joe Montana and Steve Young. That could be a possibility, and I'll tell you, it would be a great move if you're a Saint fan. I'd be upset as a Ram fan because we missed out on all 3 quarterbacks, but remember, Kevin Hogan is still out there, and I like Kevin Hogan a lot. So with the Rams, you'd have some mobility to do there if you don't move up and get one of the 3. If the Rams don't move up and Paxton Lynch is there, I don't see why the Saints don't take him. I don't think they will, but man, it would be smart if they did because I think that football team is on the cusp. It's on the cusp. It really is. So I like what they have to offer. So I like their position, too. I think they're in a good spot to draft. They're not, I mean, ideally you'd always want to be higher, but they're in a good spot where they still have a lot of talent that could fall to them on the offense side of the ball and defense, for that matter, with Myles Jack. If he goes, who knows? Maybe Reggie Ragland is my sleeper pick that goes there. Who knows? But I like the Saints' opportunities this year. I think they're loaded enough on talent. I will tell you, depending on how they handle free agency, which, guys, if you're a Saints fan, I'm sorry, you're not going to be in the free agent market this year. You got no money. I think they're sitting like at $6 million over the cap. That's it. They're like, So I don't see them being active in free agency. So they really got to do well with the draft and hope that these picks are week 1 ready, which that's tough. But I like Peyton. I think he has the capability of getting anybody week 1 ready. And when you have Drew Brees in your arsenal, you don't need a lot of help. You just need to give him some help because he is easily, in my opinion, one of the top 3 or 4 quarterbacks in the National Football League. I know last year he had a down year, but if I'm ranking his career right now of all the active players, I'm putting him at 4. It would probably be Brady, Manning. I would probably throw Aaron Rodgers, Breeze, and then Roethlisberger. I know Roethlisberger's won more Super Bowls, but he's also had a better team around him for the most part, and Drew Brees hasn't. So I really like this spot for Drew Brees and the New Orleans Saints, and that's fitting because this segment took 9 minutes, and he's, of course, number 9 in New Orleans. Okay, For the third and final segment, a little bit of fandom, just for you guys out there that are Ram fans, a little bit of an update. So yesterday, or today, March 4th, the Rams were allowed by the Players Association and the league to meet with their players and kind of give them a heads up on what's going on. Afterwards, they had a meeting or an interview process with the media, and they were basically talking about facilities and what's going on. So for some of you out there that don't know, let me just kind of give you an update. So the Rams are going to be practicing at Oxnard, where the Dallas Cowboys facility is, for OTAs, and do that. And their OTAs is before Dallas. So they'll have it to themselves. They'll be able to use that. And then they're going to bolt, and they're looking like it might be UC Irvine, where they'll go for the summer program. And then it looks like they're going to get some kind of a portable facility is in the works somewhere in or around where the Coliseum is, so they can practice there. Today's meeting was mostly about getting the players in this information and, you know, where they're going to be, what the stadium plan is, where the stadium building process is at, what to look for, you know, what they're kind of doing in that area. A lot's been made about Fisher having done this before. I don't think that has a lot to do with it. I think it has some to do with it. I'm not going to lie. I think it has some relevance. But I don't think it's that big of a deal because it's such a different situation. Moving to Tennessee is not moving to LA. It's far more compact, and it's far more publicized than their move to Tennessee ever was. In Tennessee was unique in the sense that they got the stadium wrong the first time, and then they got the stadium wrong, you know, and then the second time they made the adjustment, and then they had it was a whole big hot mess going on. Here it's pretty set in stone. They're going to be at the LA Coliseum, and they're going to be there for 3 years until 2019, and then they're going to christen the new stadium with their Super Bowl run. Probably their back-to-back. That'll be the second end of their back-to-back Super Bowl run, and they'll be world champs, and the dynasty will be on its way. I'm a little optimistic, but that's just because I'm me. I feel really good about this football team. I don't feel good about the quarterback position. I don't feel good about the wide receiver position. And I don't feel that good about the DB position. But I think those are all positions you can address. And I'll tell you what I do like. I do like a quarterback. I do like getting a free agent that will put this team over the hump with another 2 or 3 wins, or a couple of free agents that'll put them over the hump for 2 or 3 wins, and now you have your playoff team. And all I want, guys, is a 10-6 wild card game. I don't care if we win it. I don't care if we lose it. Just get to the playoffs this year. And I don't think it's that far away. Now, it's that news. I'm asking this question because I genuinely want to know. And I will ask the question at the end. But let me start by saying this. I'm not giving up on Nick Foles just yet. Whether he's a transition quarterback for the rookie we draft, and he serves as a serviceable starter until he's ready, grooms him, and then we trade him, or we don't sign him, or we do what we're going to do. Or we do what we're going to do. I don't think it's fair to grade so harshly on Nick Foles from last year because he was coming from a system that was flawed, where he'd had success. He was coming to a more traditional offense where he had to go back under center. All the reasons we hear about these rookies, for some reason, was ignored with Nick. I don't think Nick's the long-term answer. I think he's a hell of a lot better answer than Case Keenum. And before you get on your high horse, I remind you, as I look at my board, okay, Case Keenum beat Detroit, Tampa Bay. The only good win he had was Seattle. But he lost to a terrible Baltimore Ravens team, a terrible 49ers team, among others. Are we really going to sit here and say that Case Keenum is better than Nick Foles? Really? Am I crazy for thinking that? So here's my question to wrap all of this up. Number one, are you giving up on Nick Foles yet? Or do you think he could be a good in-between guy for any rookie we're about to draft? Number two, do you think Case Keenum is a better option than Nick Foles? for that same job? Because I think we all agree the Rams need to draft a quarterback in this year's draft. Answer those two questions in the discussion. I'll be looking forward to reading those responses. This is Anthony Manna from LA Rams Central. Hope you guys enjoyed this week's segment and have a wonderful weekend.